Hi, Dion from Flesh and Sports Services here, and welcome to this intuitive chat about following a feeling. And that following the feeling was the deciding factor of going no contact, both for my family and for the ex-marriage. And as I was saying in the video talking about my personal and professional experiences, that I wanted to do these videos in an informative way rather than like me just having a say sort of thing. I think there's times for telling of the truth, and then there's times for having therapy and telling of the truth. So it's knowing the context, and I want to at least share something that may help you if you're in this sort of a dynamic, because these sort of dynamics that I was in turn your world upside down and make you question yourself, even question your own sanity. And these people in these dynamics will actually help question your own sanity because it makes them look good. If you're the crazy one, then of course they're the shining best one. And it's the world of manipulation that I think you really need to hold on to your own reality. And your own reality is not going to be a great reality to hold on to, but it is going to be a truthful reality. It's kind of a grounded reality where when your world is trying to get turned upside down, where you've been told what you've said is not what you've said, or that any sort of responsibility taken for behaviors is now your responsibility somehow, it can get very mind-bending. It can confuse your world quite a bit. Even if you're doing things like writing your reality down on paper, documenting things, keeping a track of actual reality, it can come in handy, because when a person has that mentality of nothing's my problem, it's your problem, and the problems that I cause are not my problem, it's your problem, because you're reacting in a way that tries to make it my problem once again, when it's your problem that you reacted to my problem. And if you can follow that train of thought, then, and if you can't, then it's probably a good time to start documenting your own reality and being truthful about your own self. And sometimes knowing also that your reality only exists because it's an interaction between someone, yourself and the other person. And there can be a sense of dependency, a sense of being hooked into someone, because there's a sense of need of what that person completes in your own life. And once you start to realize that, you can start to unhook. And as soon as you start to unhook, that's when the other person really starts to try to hook in. When we heal ourselves, or when we start upon our healing journey, that can be seen as a threat to other people, because you're getting better. And in becoming better, you become more self-sufficient. You value your own self more. You become more confident within yourself. You can speak for yourself and speak your own truth in a way. And in doing that, you would think those are very good qualities to have. It's like everyone wants to be that strong, confident person. They have all their boundaries are well respected. They may fail along the way, but they are able to regain that emotional resilience and capacity. But there's some people that see that as basically kind of like their source of, if it was a drug, it was kind of like their beer bottle or whatever, their vodka bottle, going, you know what, I no longer need you in this relationship, sort of thing. While the other person's like, I need you, I need that source of dependency. And they'll hang on for dear life to stop that person from going away. And a lot of that is in undermining behavior, undermining your sense of worth, your self-worth. All those values that I said were good things become something that becomes quite threatening and something that needs to be undermined. Because if you can undermine something, then it collapses. It's kind of like a siege mentality. If you can bring down those walls, bring down those boundaries, then you can take whatever's valuable within the castle walls, sort of thing. Those boundaries are now dropped, and that person now has say over the territory within it. It's not a nice life to live. For myself, knowing when to leave both the marriage and also the family environment came down to a simple feeling. And that feeling within myself was a feeling of lightness. That lightness wasn't like I was filled with light or I saw the light. It's when you, to relate it to yourself, if you're feeling fearful, you tend to feel a bit constricted, or if you've got something to say, sometimes your stomach can feel very constricted. You're wound up, you're bound up by this tension within the body. That is a life of living confined, armored up, protecting yourself from the next argument, the next draining conversation where your needs and concerns are not of value. You're there for the other person and their needs and values. You're living in a state of perceived attack all the time. And that's how I led to my first trauma overwhelm. My body was becoming so tight, so tense, that lying on a soft bed felt like lying on cement, and I could hardly breathe. Like, this was my breathing. I remember my old martial art teacher saying that it sounded like I just climbed up Mount Everest and I was just struggling to take the breath. Things like ultrasounds, all these tests that they were giving me can't show anything because, one, it's fascia that's constricting, that won't show up on an ultrasound, and two, trauma doesn't tend to show up on tests unless you're taking the adverse child adversity test, adverse child experience test, sorry. I was going through my life feeling weighed down, burdened, heavy by being in this dynamic. Going outside of that dynamic, when I was interacting with other people, when I was either in my job or with friends or with just shopkeepers, when I was by myself thinking about things that brought me value, I tend to feel good in myself. I tend to feel lighter within myself. And when I feel lighter, I feel a lot better within myself. But then I have to return to this home environment, be it with the family or with the marriage. Like, say with the marriage, my body would actually start to tense up knowing that my ex-wife was coming home, because I knew that from the time that she walked through the door to the time that we went to sleep, I became that therapist about her day, that dumping ground. All the toxicity that she experienced in the day was now mine to fix. And of course, that drains me out because I also have my day. I also have my voice. I also have my needs that need to be met. But that's obviously an offense to the other person. And it was a clear offense because I did try to say, hey, can we not just talk about your day until we go to sleep, sort of thing. And that was seen as me not caring, that I don't care about her day, yet my voice was never heard. One of the things where, especially for myself, that has had all those misdiagnoses, one of the things that they tend to do as a way of not leaving a relationship is question your mental state. In the case of the medications, it was the GP that was actually increasing and decreasing the medication, not the psychiatrist. Once the psychiatrist knew about that, he wasn't happy. But it was the family GP, of course, the family GP of my mother. When I found out about her from the psychiatrist as well, I informed the GP, and the GP was like, well, do you want me to tell your mother? And also, I kind of thought something was off. So this is the response after 20 years of getting my medications. Whenever there was a stress within the household, I was the one getting medicated. My medication had to go up. So if there's an awareness that something's not right, probably inquiring a bit more into that awareness and not being also bound around the finger of someone that's manipulating you. So they're quite good at what they do. In the case of my ex-wife, she was just a social worker, and that's all she did for a job. And she was also present at the time of the re-diagnosis when the psychiatrist. But of course, when I was showing signs of actually getting better, my mental health, she was somehow now the psychiatrist of myself and was trying to question my own mental health and that I was not well and all these sorts of things. Which I knew I wasn't the most sanest person in the world, but I also knew that I wasn't the craziest. I also knew that I had an official re-diagnosis from an official psychiatrist, not a social worker that was actually causing a lot of the harm. I followed that feeling of lightness, and that feeling of lightness, I also knew that I was going to be in for a world of hurt. I just didn't think, oh, well, if I leave this, everything's going to be great for me now. I knew I was going to be in for a world of hurt. I knew that I was going to probably be persecuted, that those comments of, oh, I thought you guys were good together. Now, of course, when I left the marriage, for example, it was a decision that I actually made that was actually presented to me many, many times. I was just the one that finally did it. I tried to end it twice. The first time we got back together, like tried to give it a go with marriage counselors and everything like that, but ultimately patterns just keep cycling. When it comes to actually leaving, any form of slight disagreement, any form of the person taking responsibility for their own actions, they'll try and threaten the relationship by calling an end to the relationship. And this was the case in the former marriage. And it's quite an interesting tactic because it's almost a proving of, are you committed to the cause, basically? The cause of basically being manipulated and used and abused. So whenever there was a disagreement, she would actually say, we should just end this. We should just end it. Like, always threatening the end to the relationship. And of course, at that time, I wanted to give it a go. I was committed to a marriage. I organised for the marriage counsellors. I organised for all these things to actually keep it together. It was my decision to keep going. And I know for a fact that it's a test, because one day towards the end, I decided to actually call her out on this and say, okay, well, if you want to end it, end it. If you're not happy, just end it. It's like, it's okay. It's like you can end it. She thought about it. She considered it, kind of had a smirk on her face, and then said, no, I don't think we should like try and keep it together and like work on it. After consistently trying to end the relationship, she then presented with the opportunity, and if she said yes to that, that's okay. I'm free and clear in that stage. Then it was latched back in, and that latching back in is, okay, well, this guy's obviously wanting to leave. I might have to double down on this. And that's what it became. So even when presented with the opportunity of what they're threatening to actually leave something, when directly communicated to them, it's like, hey, well, maybe you're right, maybe we should. This is obviously not working. I'm not enjoying these constant arguments or having to be that source of supply. That source of supply is obviously needing to be latched back in. So if anything, I was probably more the brave one, or the more one that respected oneself, and said, hey, yes, we should end this. And I did that. I took the ring off, tossed it back to her. I got sick of the arguments, and that was it. So it became where you're constantly the crutch and that source of supply for someone else, almost bordering on emotional alcoholism or that filling of that hole, that needing to self-soothe with someone else's emotional availability, which then leads to those statements of, well, I thought you guys were good together. Good is a presentation. Good, navigating hardships through life and being there is good as well. But when it came to my hardships, I was left by myself. I had to do that all by myself, my trauma recovery. I was seen as a financial burden. I was seen as like, not good enough because I didn't have the big role. I was seen as all these things, kind of, well, basically that, a burden to a person that just wanted to present the best. I think out of all of this, what I'd have to say is, hold true to your reality. Know that these people will turn you upside down. Try to get as much as you can out of the mindset of, I can fix this person, or I can change this person, or this person is going to change. I would admit that some people do have that capacity. They can actually change. I've seen it. I work as a support worker, that people genuinely want better in their lives. But that's a conscious choice of that person. Some of these choices that these people are making that are causing damaging don't want to look at that. They want to present that. Once you get past that surface layer, you get to that core of it of, it's not my problem, it's your problem for bringing up that I caused your problem. So holding true to your reality, knowing who you are, following that feeling of knowing what your interactions with other people, or even just by yourself, how you feel in yourself, might be that indicator of change. Because if we're living in fear of people that care for us, that's not caring. That's living in fear. But also having the full awareness that following that light feeling within us that we're not so weighed down by, is also going to come with its own trials and tribulations. And it also means undoing some old patterns of behavior where you're just going to go, well, I'm free of this relationship now, onto the exact same red flag. Knowing that you can actually change your own stuff, because if you've made that conscious choice to change, there's probably a good chance that you're making other conscious choices to make other changes in your life and better yourself. And not better yourself to be the best, just better yourself to actually get better. Like if you're sick, getting better, curing that illness from dealing with ill people. So freeing yourself from that. It's not easy, and I think having your voice is a huge thing, especially when you're told not to have a voice, or that you should just get over it, or that these things just shouldn't bother you. Easy to say and insensitive to say at the same time. If you've had a car crash, do you go up to the car crash victim and go, hey, just get over it? You should just move on now. There's going to be some intensive care. There's going to be some recovery from that. It's a realistic thing. And the same for people that have suffered emotional abuse. There's going to be a sense of reality that they have to now adjust to from having their world turned upside down. So I'm Dion from Evolution Support Services, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.